Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Confessions with a Founder. I'm your host, Alysha M. Campbell. So excited, as always, to be here with y'all and to talk about the journey and to talk about my journey from building a business off the side of my desk to scaling to a successful six-figure business and everything in between and the journey and all the things that come along with that. And this episode is called Me, Myself, and I, because we're going to get a little bit personal. We're going to talk a little bit about, myself in terms of being on this journey, the highs and lows, the fears, the wins, all of those types of things. So I guess we'll jump right in. There's kind of not a good way or a right way to talk into the things that have been so scary. But let's talk about that first and foremost. The fear. Fear is real when you are running your own business. And the fear feels like fear. The fear, it's not even that you're necessarily scared to move, to do a thing. It's really that fear of failure. Because in the beginning, when you have a business, it could be just you. It could be you and a couple other people. But there's this mounting pressure that gets created that as you grow, more people are depending on you. More people are relying on you. More people have expectations of you. And that fear can be absolutely crippling because you're just trying to run a business. You're just trying to put out a product, a service, whatever that might be. But then there's this fear that if you don't show up, if you don't do a good job, if you don't ABC, fill in the blank, you're letting down your whole team. And that only mounts as you get larger. When it was just myself and maybe some consultants or contractors, something goes wrong, I only have myself to blame, or, the ricochet effect of that isn't very large. But when you have a team and a team that you support, obviously this being their full-time jobs, and you are there creating things into the world, the fear of not meeting that expectation, the fear of feeling not good enough is absolutely crippling. I've felt that on numerous occasions. And specifically for me, I feel fear the most around financial stuff. So it's interesting. I actually went to school for accounting. Not many people know that. I was trying to be a CPA and all that thing, but that did not happen, obviously. But for some reason, not for some reason, I know the reason why, but I have a fear when it comes around finances and money. And it's because of me growing up. I did not have a very financially secure childhood. Some of you may have heard me say this in the past, but I was actually homeless 4 times before the age of 18. And that in and of itself comes with its own wounds, its own trauma, its own things that you have to overcome, and the negative narratives that come with that. You think, okay, I'm not good with money. I'm irresponsible with money. I'm not equipped to manage money. All these negative narratives in your head. And when you're growing a business on top of that and you're, making money, you're seeing the money in the account, you see the money leave the account, you're adding on expenses, you're making all these financial decisions, these narratives come back again and they get louder and louder and louder. And it really begins to weigh on you to the point of am I even capable of doing this? Am I even responsible enough? Am I even, smart enough to do this? Because all of those previous experiences and those narratives in your head, that's all that you're familiar with. So I had to be really, really conscious, and I'm still really, really conscious about my inner talk, because that will literally bring you to your knees if you don't take the right steps and protocols to manage that. I now meditate, I do yoga, I have a coach, I do EFT tapping, I journal. I am very mindful of the negative mindsets I can have, and I know the power they can have in my business, and I stop them. I've created the tools and the routine to not only put them at bay, but when they creep up, to get them out, or not get them out, but to let them go and to not fester on those things. But financial insecurity is a massive area for me. And then as my team has grown and seeing, okay, do I have the capital, the revenue to sustain a team, to sustain the growth we're experiencing, it just makes all your insecurities come out. And what's funny, or I should say it's not funny, but what actually happens is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're like, oh, I don't have enough, I don't have enough, I don't have enough. And then you actually don't have enough. Or you're like, oh, I need to scrap together this money to pay XY person. Then you're actually scrapping together the money. You have to really be focused on changing your, not only the way what you say, we have to truly change your mindset on abundance and knowing that your company is growing. People want to pay you large sums of money to work with you. People love working with you. There is more than enough to support you and your team and the growth you're experiencing. You really not only have to say those things, but you really have to feel those things as you go through your own transformation, as you work through your own blind spots in those areas. But that took a lot of work, because it's so much easier for you to doubt yourself. It's so much easier to feel like you're not good enough, to like, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not good enough. But when you recognize that you are, and you just have to keep chipping away at that negativity, it in the process is exhausting, but the benefit of it is so good. And I'm not there. I'm much better than where I was a year ago, but I'm still working on it. I still have my hiccups. I still have my negative mindsets sometimes, but I'm really conscious of them. And I really take the time to inquire, where is this coming from? How can I move forward? How do I let this connotation go, this thought go? And how do I create that abundant mindset and that abundant mentality? But yeah, fear is very real. And when it comes to fear, a lot of us face imposter syndrome, kind of what I was talking about, of like, well, I'm not equipped to do this. I'm not made to do this. And that imposter syndrome will make you feel like you're lying to yourself. You're lying to your clients. You're lying to your team. You're lying to yourself. And it can feel so debilitating because you kind of don't recognize who you are anymore, because you've put on this facade, or you put on this image or this mask of what you think people want to see. But how you get rid of imposter syndrome is you have to count the receipts. And what I mean by that is, you probably are, if you're running a business right now, or you're thinking of running a business, there's something in what your journey is that allowed you to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have faith in myself. For me, it was recognizing that I had a career of over 10 years in the HR space and clients loved working with me. It was me recognizing that I was winning awards and being recognized in my industry. It was me recognizing that, I was able in my, even building this CultureShift off the side of my desk in my first year reached 100K. These are things that happen where you have to remember and have your own be your own cheerleader, be your own, cheer person that allows you, that when you're in that funk, when you're in those dark times, or where you feel like, who am I to run a business? Who am I to build a team? Who am I to run a high 6-figure, even 7-figure business? You have to be that voice that's like, you know who you are, you're A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way to Z. Because those are the things that are going to pull you out of that imposter syndrome. Those are going to be the things that create that more positive mindset. And those are the things that are going to allow you to be in the present of what you are creating, which is so important. When it comes to feeling imposter syndrome, it happens in both ways. It can happen as you're on the journey and you're like, oh, can I do this? I'm not seeing it work out, but I got to keep going. I got to keep pushing. And then it also happens when you reach that goal. When we reached a key revenue milestone for 2023, for the first 4 weeks of January, I was like beside myself, because I had never won. It's one thing to be like, oh, I want to make X amount of revenue. And, you're just doing the things. You're not really mindful of the number. You're just kind of like hustling and getting things done. And then it's one thing to look at your balance sheet and to look at your revenue statements at the end of the year. And you're like, oh, wow, like we did that. Like I did that. Like people pay me this much money. And it kind of goes it kind of escapes you because you don't see that as you. You just see that as a number. And now then that in and of itself is like, well, hold on. How did I do that? Why did I do that? Can I do it again? And it feels very disconnected, especially if you, like myself, came from a background where you always were in lack, and then you see what you've done and there's no association between what you did and that number on the paper. And it scared me to death because here I am now making even bigger goals for the new year, and I can't even associate myself with the number that I already did, I already beat, I already proved. And it made me feel like I was floating, and not the good kind of floating. It made me feel like my reality wasn't mine. It made me feel like my reality wasn't something that I had created, even though it was. And those things just make you doubt yourself more, or make you criticize and criticize yourself even that much more. And I remember talking to my coach about it, and she's like, okay, we got to get rid of this ASAP, because not only is this going to put you backwards, but you have to realize that if you don't acknowledge this win, if you don't acknowledge and hold the power of the thing that you have just accomplished, and you let that fade away, it's going to be even that much harder to get it back again. And so we worked really hard on, this is when I had been doing EFT tapping already, but I had really doubled down on it to really ground myself in my reality of what I was creating and what I had put together, from my team to my revenue to my offerings to the way that I connect with clients. So imposter syndrome can happen, and I feel like it always happens. I was listening to a story the other day, like someone who, a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company or million-dollar company, I can't remember, and someone had asked him, like, do you ever not feel imposter syndrome? He's like, no. He's like, it gets worse. He's like, it gets worse. You just have to manage it better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when is this ever gonna, when is this ever gonna be fun? Kidding aside, it is fun, but you know what I mean? Like, if this is the challenges that you're constantly up against mentally, when does this become, like, when can you sit back and like enjoy it? Anyways, so getting ahead of your mindset first and foremost is so important, especially if you're going to be in this in the long run, and what that begins to look like. I feel for myself personally, I'm in my season of surrender. What that means is that I I know the things to do, right? I know how to hire a team. I know how to, meet clients, meet a need, fulfill a contract. I know how to run an operations. I know how to do all these things, but I know that there's something required of me that is going to take me to a space that is unfamiliar. And I'm trusting God that He's going to lead me into that space. And in order to be led, I have to surrender my ideas and my idealism of what I thought was possible, because He can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can even ask or think. And this space is scary. This space is really, really scary. I am nowhere near where I was last year. And I mean that in all facets. Like, who I actually was as a human being is totally different than who I am today. If you were to meet me a year ago to today, it's two different people in a good way. I'm very more mindful. I'm very more conscious. I'm very more in tune with who I am. But in doing that, you have to realize that there's other things at play in a good way that allow you to go into the stratosphere of success. And that's the space that I'm in, where I don't need to do more of the things. I don't need to create more offerings or services and things of that nature. I have to be in a space where I trust and I lean in and I surrender to be led to where I need to be for myself, for my family, and for my business. And that is really scary. And I keep coming back to being scared because I've tried to control things all my life. I've tried to control my circumstances, my finances, my living arrangements, all the things. And I thought that by me muscling it all together, that allowed me to have what I needed. And not realizing that if I just had taken a beat, taken a step back, and let me be led by God and where He's trying to guide me, I probably would have suffered a lot less than a lot of the heartache and turmoil that I put myself through. But I know that now, and letting go at deeper levels, there's a relief, but there's also a sense of feeling wobbly. And I just continue to ground myself in that every day, and ground myself in who I know that I am, who I know that I believe in and that I follow, and that I am made for something that is so incredible, that is beyond even what my imagination can conspire. So I say that to say, and this episode is pretty personal. But if you're listening to it and you're like, oh my gosh, Alysha, like get how do I get to that space? You really have to ask yourself, what type of business do you want to lead? And I say that to say that I thought that I wanted to be, this, badass CEO and all the things. And I am. I am that girl. I am all the things. But I recognize that my limitations are that they're limitations. And to know that there is a being that is almighty, all powerful, all seeing, all knowing, omnipotent, all these things, that gives me such a security and safety. But also, it calls on me to let things go. So I'm letting go of my fear. I'm letting go of my hesitation. I'm letting go of having to know step 1, 2, 3 to 5. I'm letting that go. I am waking up every day, being mindful and connecting to God that allows me to understand the steps I need to take and who I need to be to show up to be ready for those things. Because as much as I made that money, or my team made that money, it was God that put those people in my life. It was God that put those clients in front of me. It was God that impressed on their hearts to say yes. And I recognize that I can only be a vessel. But for me to be a vessel, I have to make sure that I'm creating the space for him to really take over and do what he wants to do with this business. I don't know if you remember, I don't know if it was my first or second episode, but I said that when I went full time in CultureShift for the first time, I told God, I said, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. And if you want me to do this, I need you to show up for me. And by the end of that week, I had a 6-month client, that signed up for 6 months at 5 figures. And I felt, okay, cool, we got this, we're good. And I have to now take that times 10. I have to wake up every day and say, God, whatever it is that you want me to do, whatever it is that you want me to be in front of, whatever it is that you want me to be prepared for, allow me to be prepared, and allow me to be a vessel for this business, for this work, for this opportunity. And that took a lot of strength to do that. It takes a lot of strength to move out of your own way. But when you realize that your way isn't working, you kind of are left with no choice, and in a good way, but also, again, in a scary way when you're not used to that. Some of the things I do when it comes to, getting in touch with my inner self and how I create, this process. First is I journal. I journal every day. And I don't journal of just what's going on around me, but I journal of what I want. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I journal of what already is. And what I mean by that is I'm a big believer in affirmations and manifestation. And I actively contribute to that process. What I mean by that is the things that I want, or the things that are already in my existence, I give thanks for them. I give thanks for our new 20 clients. I give thanks for the revenue of over $1 million this year. I give thanks for my team that's growing all over North America. I give thanks for the partnerships that we're creating. I give thanks for, the opportunity to change the world on the message of diversity and inclusion. Do I have all those things today? No. In the reality that I live in, they're not present, but I know that they're coming. And I know that those things are being placed at the exact right time that I need them. But I'm giving thanks for them now. So that's one thing that I do. Again, I meditate. I really quiet my inner voice, and I focus on and visualize what I'm building, what's in store, what's ahead of me. And I take that so personally, because you really do create the reality that you're in. And I want to create a reality that allows not only prosperity in my life, but abundance in health, in wealth, in relationships, in people, in love, in family, all of those amazing things. So meditation is massive for me. You've heard me talk a little bit about EFT tapping, which has been such a game changer for me. If you're new to EFT tapping, definitely check it out. But I do EFT tapping twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. Just to help clear out any energy blockages that I might be having, and help get me into the right mindset, into the right mood and energy. for the day. I also do like, I was gonna say meditation again. I also do, oh my gosh, the needles, acupuncture. I also do acupuncture. Again, just aligning myself, letting go of stress. I'm not a big drinker. I don't partake in any of those things. And so the stress builds up. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say here that I'm not stressed and I'm just, floating on cloud nine. Running a business is stressful, but there's things out there that help you with your stress. And so I do acupuncture and different things that help to regulate my body, help me to manage my stress, and help me to really be grounded and centered in who I am. So it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. I don't do these things all at once, but I built a routine that really works for me and that really allows me to be centered and grounded and to be present in the things that are happening. I also have a coach, and I've had coaches for years, but my coach presently, she's phenomenal, and she allows me to bring in elements of business strategy and spirituality in a way that aligns to my energetic blueprint. And that is really special. I've always felt that in business, it's like you had to follow a certain way of doing things. And I was like, oh, but I don't like that way, or it doesn't feel natural to me. Realizing that you can run a business the way that feels energetically right to you, which we don't talk about, or you don't really hear much about unless you're more into those spiritual elements. But that's really important to me. I don't want to run a business like another white male CEO, because that's not me. I'm a Black woman. So I want to run my business that feels good to me in a way that allows me to create connection and community, and allows me to do all those amazing things that I love. So that element of bringing those two pieces together and understanding myself in those deeper facets, super important for me. What else? I'm like, oh, this is getting so juicy. I think that as I look on what is to come and where I want to be as a CEO of CultureShift, I think it's important to recognize that I don't know all the answers. I really, really don't know all the answers. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not knowing all the answers. I'm okay with not knowing the how. I can know the what, but I don't need to know the how. I'm okay with being put in a space that feels uncomfortable, but knowing that I'm meant to be there. I'm okay with not knowing the end from the beginning. And I'm okay with trusting the process and trusting all of the things that I've put together, and first and foremost, God, and where that's going to lead. Those things are easier said than done. I will tell you that. But that's what matters for me. And I always used to be that individual that's like, oh, by the time I'm 30, I have to have this and babies. And no, I don't know what's in store for me. I know that I'm put here to run this business for now, build a great, incredible team, work with incredible clients, make a change in what it means to be a woman of color in the workplace. And that's what I'm doing. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. I don't even know what tonight is going to look like. But what I do know is that I will have everything that I need at exactly the right time that I need it. And I think if you take anything away from this podcast episode, is that you also will have everything you need exactly when you need it. And that phrase used to actually get me very annoyed, because I'm like, I want more and I want to be more. And if this is all I can do right now, then I didn't work hard enough. And that's not it at all. You need to recognize that where you are is a combination of your fears, your limitations, but also of your gifts and where those gifts are right now. I couldn't do what I'm doing 2 years ago. I would have definitely fumbled the bag. But I'm doing what I'm doing now because I understand myself better. I see things clear. I'm more in tune with things. And that in and of itself, doing less can mean so much more. And that has been the biggest lesson for myself in this process. I don't need to do all the things. I don't need to maneuver and manipulate or try to, put a square into a triangle hole. I just need to be. But until you can get comfortable in that space, until you can get comfortable just being, you're going to get in your way a lot. And so I just encourage everybody who's listening to take a beat, reassess, tune into yourself, and recognize that You are far more incredible than you can ever imagine. You just have to maybe reevaluate and look around you to see how you're getting in your own way, just like I did for myself. So I hope y'all enjoy this episode. Definitely a little bit different, a little bit more personal. But that's what this is all about. This is why I started this podcast, because I wanted y'all to kind of know a little bit more about me, who I am, why I do what I do, and why I create the way I create, which is what we're doing here today. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening in, tuning in, all the things. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and let us know in the comments what you liked about this episode, maybe future topics you want to learn about or hear about from my experience, my journey. And we will see you soon. We'll see you on the flip side. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see y'all soon.